So over to you, Professor Akintoye.
Delogun has a book, Fatherless People, and there is a small account in it of Zeke returning from America in 1933 with very highly blown ideas of Pan-Africanism, the black man in the world, and so on and so forth. Well, he was vulnerable. He was a poor person, and he wasn't getting the kind of help that he desired. He had applied for jobs to many organizations and many agencies back home in Nigeria, and none of them had given him a job. And he arrived in London on his way back home, and that vulnerability put him in the hands of the colonial authorities. Basically, what happened, the British respected the Yoruba, but they didn't particularly like the kind of black man that the Yoruba were. They didn't like it, because by the time they came, the Yoruba were already fairly highly educated. They had been producing graduates from the last years of the 1850s. And by the time that the British began to come into Yoruba land in the 1880s, 1890s, there were already very many Yoruba graduates in very many areas of life. And when the British finally became the rulers of Nigeria, I'm jumping over a whole lot of things. They didn't fancy the Yoruba at all. They might be friends with the individual Yoruba people, because the educated people for them to be friends with were mostly Yoruba. But they feared that the Yoruba were going to make the profits of colonialism difficult to achieve in Nigeria. So the British didn't particularly like the Yoruba, and thought that they needed to subdue the interests of the influence of the Yoruba people in Nigeria. And according to the account in the book that I have quoted, Fatherless People, Marjorie Peram, who was a scholar of the colonial establishment, got hold of Nnamdi Azikiwe, took him to meetings with British colonial officials from Nigeria who were at the time in London, and finally arranged a meeting